Excellent. Okay, so we have the last two pillars that we have is going to be how to connect farming and bring it to everyday people. And then another one is going to be how to use farming to change and do things in your local community. So if you want to hear the community part first, raise your hand. Or if you want to hear the farming and connecting it to everyday people. Okay, we'll do everyday people. Now they're all passing those off, so we'll let you do all that.
I'm trying to remember which ones.
Oh yeah, this is the soil one, not the moon one.
Is it just that?
Yeah.
There are three of them?
Yeah,
They're all the same.
No, so all three of these are the same for the soil. Each project has 3 papers. Like the moon, they have 2 papers. The soil, they have 2 papers. Okay, sweet. So what we passed out is what is living soil, and I wanted to pass it out when we talk about how to kind of connect with everyday people. The reason we do that is because there's a difference in what we've kind of seen growing in the farming world, which is what I call the social media gardener. The social media gardener is very much so a fabbish kind of gardener. It's all about the hype, it's all about the raised garden beds, the pretty aesthetics, and all these kind of things. And the reason why we kind of talk about this is because it's almost kind of harder to locally connect with these kind of gardens and spaces than it is to connect with a garden where it's a lot more nature-like, natural, and we're able to be regenerative. The reason I say that is because when we're regenerative, we're using things from nature and we're not coming out of pocket. And that's one of the biggest ones, because in order to connect with people, we don't want to have to come out of pocket to connect with somebody. If I told you to come farm with me, but I told you you had to pay to do it, you wouldn't want to farm with me. If I told you to come farm with me, but we can't farm because I don't have enough money to buy the soil, we're not going to be able to farm. But if I tell you to come farm with me, and we can farm, and you don't need anything besides to just come farm, and we're going to work with what is here, and that's it, and that's all we need, then every single person here can come farm with us. So because of that, we talk about living soil and how to create that, and how to understand what that is. So if you guys are familiar with living soil, raise your hand. Are familiar. Okay, we have a few people in here. So a couple of keywords. We did permaculture. If you're familiar with permaculture, raise your hand. Okay, cool. If you're familiar with no-till, raise your hand. Okay, nice. If you're familiar with biodynamics, raise your hand. Okay, nice. Okay, cool. If you're familiar with indigenous farming, raise your hand. Okay, perfect. Regenerative farming, everyone's hands just went up on that one. Okay, cool. So these are all practices that we get into that allow us to be able to farm together without needing multiple other necessities or materials. So we're able to just use what we have, and we talk about that. In Arizona, if you've heard you can't grow in Arizona, raise your hand. I'm surprised. Okay, this is good. This is like a new generation, because every time you meet people around, you hear you can't farm in Arizona. So now that we're starting to change that, that is amazing. But yes, we can. Arizona is a beautiful, amazing place to grow. We have 4 different seasons, and we have the longest growing seasons than most states. So we're able to farm all year round. We're also known as a lettuce bowl, so we're able to grow almost any kind of greens from now up until springtime. So if you like any type of greens, you can get the entire lettuce bowl season, salads, all of that in Arizona. Full sun and all, you'd be surprised. So with all of that, we like to show you guys how to do that, what does that look like, and provide you a little bit of science with it, as well as a little bit of lore for biodynamics and understanding the permaculture aspect of it. So you guys can dive into these and kind of like read through them and get some information. We also have a spot on our website called BTS where you can get a lot more reads and different stuff through this. But in here we talk about how we use our clay to be able to grow any kind of our plants and turn any desert lacking space, whether it's concrete, whether it's broken concrete, whether it has all kinds of bad stuff in it, how you can turn that and simply grow something within 3 to 4 months. So, and you can take any kind of spot. We've done it, and we've shown many people many times before. We tell you guys to try our stuff, so you guys can see for yourselves and how that works. So we tried to show you with the spiral garden here, as well as the row farms that are both in the pictures and the things that you guys have, how each one of these within 3 to 4 months, we're able to grow many different leafy greens, any different veggies from tomatoes, peas, things from brassicas, kales, collards, all kinds of stuff like that. So you'll be able to see it, and then we also try to show you guys how to do that. So with that, we take our 3 different parts. So you're gonna take your clay, your sand, and silt, the standard part, and we're going for an even ratio. And when we take clay, sand, and silt, and we put it in an even ratio, we can grow anything in that because it's porous, it has air, and clay holds nutrients. So, is anyone familiar with the properties of clay? Kinda. Okay, so if we need, is anyone familiar with how plants uptake food? Kinda. So do plants uptake food through the roots? I'm giving you guys trick questions and you guys look stuck. I love it. I'm just messing with you guys. Yes, plants can take nutrients up through the roots. They do this in a process that's known to allow them to convert different minerals in the soil and make it into something that they can't uptake. But if there's no minerals in the soil to attach onto anything, there's nothing there that they can get to. Clay is going to be a particle that is going to bind all the minerals in the soil and hold on to it, which is going to allow the roots to be able to work with it and to convert it. So if you don't have clay in your soil, sometimes you're not going to be able to hold on to the nutrients. And this is interesting because in most bagged soil, there's no clay. There's absolutely no clay in almost 90-something% bagged soil. There's just floating nutrients. And what happens, you have to put your plants in the ground to be able to provide a clay. Otherwise, you're getting a lot in excess of runoff. You're going to get excess leaching of water if you don't have something to hold that. So this is why we tell people why we try to benefit growing in-ground, indigenous soil, working with the clay, learning how to change it over and learning how to use it, rather than having to go buy a lot of other materials to source to do that. Make sense, Anna? Really quick. Okay, cool. So because of this, this allows us to extend and reach outwards. So a story that I like to tell is a story that when I was starting a different farm, we started it was a random corner of a stop sign. It was an empty lot in a neighborhood that's never been touched. And we just started digging and raking it away day by day. And every 2 days, somebody would come by and be like, hey, what are you doing? And we're like, starting a farm. Why? We're just doing it. Keep on growing. People come by, what are you doing? Starting a farm. Can't grow anything out here. Okay. Keep on growing. Day after day, people just coming in, buying, who just were out there community, whether they're walking to the store, no matter what they're doing, they start to get more and more active in questions. Then they see just the trench. They see just the water. They come back. Oh, your trench looks good. You think that'll grow? Yeah. All right. Again, day by day, this happens all the time in many different things that we don't think about. But then it gets to the point where they see sprouts and they see something that actually sprouting out of the ground. They come back. Oh my God, there's a sprout there. They don't know if it's going to produce food. I don't know if it's going to produce food yet. It's just a sprout. But now it goes from you can't grow to, wow, okay, well, what's next? Or what got you into it? Now they want to know a story. Now they want to know okay, well, why are you doing this? I see that you can do it now. Why are you doing this? Now they want to know. Again, they keep going and they come back when it becomes taller, and now they're invested. They feel connected because just as much as I've seen this plant grow, they've seen this plant grow. They've seen it come by walking, their children walking, and they're seeing it now. Where a place that was deserted, as you guys can see in one of the spots, you'll see a deserted picture of, let's see, yeah, the first Nama micro farm. So you're gonna see an empty spot just there with nothing on it. Deserted area, just back spot. And we actually didn't show you guys it when it was dirty. We showed you when we actually raked it up and cleaned. So, but that is just barren. And as you see the progression from those pictures, you're gonna see that the different ways that people are gonna start to interact with you from that point on. But then you're also gonna deal with what happens when too many people interact with you and what happens when you're now getting attention. Because these are things that we have to think about in any setting, and I promise you, if you're going to farm at all, this will happen. It happens in every farmer who does it. This is the process between them either keeping the farm or losing the farm. Because now that you have production, now that you have this thing happening, it's now about consistency. Because now what they're going to start happening is that the energy kind of moves over between, oh my God, you're a farmer, you're a grower, to now either I want to either help you, I want to get something from this, or this isn't okay with me, and I'm just going to be very upfront. These are the three things that's going to happen in any type of farm setting. So if you get somebody who wants to help you, game on. We're working together, and now I'm able to connect with many different community from anyone. It doesn't matter nationality, it doesn't matter skin color, it doesn't matter who you are. None of that means anything because you see plants and you just want to be a part of it. That's awesome. Then you get the people who want to not necessarily help you, but they're hungry. People who just want to eat. They're like, oh my God, this is right here. I'd rather pay you than go to the store. Now we're dealing with economics. Now we're dealing with, okay, well, what I'm doing, now people want to pay for it. So now I'm dealing with another way to outreach and communicate with people. The last one is the one we don't really want. That's the person who's going to come over here and be like, who are you and what's your certification to do this? And then this is when we get into, I'm just a man who started a farm, and I'm just someone who wants to grow a plant. Now, is that legal?
Yeah, with codes and regulations, and even after registering this area with the USDA as a farm, Tempe City Council was like, no, it's a no-go.
Yeah. So this is when zoning rights, understanding what your human rights are and what your rights of the land and areas that you are in every single day. Very important. It'll change a lot of things you think of. There are soil rights, there are water rights, there are air rights, there are mineral rights. Each one of these are different. And in order to have a sustainable, successful farm, you want to try to lock in as many of these as you possibly can. Those are things that are really important. So as we start these little farms, we start to automatically connect with people without even our choice. This is what's going to happen because people are going to see it and they're drawn to it. There's no way to separate it. The only way to do that is if we did something private. You put up walls, you put up fences, you keep yourself as secluded as possible. That's one way to do it, but then you see the difference between the communal aspect, and you see how that's not necessarily reaching out to the community in an organic way. Now you can do that, be successful, and still reach out to the community and have your private, which is fine, and that might be a better way to do it. But you notice that most places are community gardens, most places are out in the open, most places you have to deal with what happens and how people interact naturally. Does that make sense? Yes?
The micro farm, that first picture, what is that? Is that like just, is that like a piece of property owned by somebody?
So-
Or is it just a strip on the side of the street somewhere?
Both of those. So it is a strip on the side of the street. It is actually the wall that is there is behind our shop. So the wall is separated. We own the shop right on the other side of it. It was an L-shaped plaza. This is on the opposite. So here's the main street. This is on the opposite side of the building. So it's off of the main street. It's not touching the main street at all. You can't see it. And it was about maybe like a 30 by 200. Like 30 by 200 feet all the way down. When we got there, it was used as a bulk drop site, and it was known to be one of the highest drug population spots of the neighborhood. So we had no idea that. We just started turning it, we just started raking it and cleaning it, and we learned about the neighborhood as people started to come and tell us. We would come over, people would be like, oh my God, what are you doing? Doing a farm. It's like, oh, this is where everybody dumps their trash. Well, that sucks, so I hope people stop dumping their trash. Okay, another person. He's like, oh, hey, what are you guys doing? Starting a farm. What about the bullet hole? What bullet hole? He's like, oh, come here. That bullet hole. And I'm like, well, I hope there's no more bullet holes now, and I hope that we're good now. But again, I'm learning about a space without even having to go to people. We're learning about the spot. So as we're going, and more people are coming to us, telling us this is what happened, this is how this happened. We're learning, and then you get the after effect of people like, we haven't seen homeless here anymore. We haven't seen anyone try to do anything bad. We haven't seen any of this. Now we get the community on our side. Wait, they want to kick you guys out? Why? Hasn't been anything beautiful since you guys have been here. This is the best thing our neighborhood has had. Then we get people who are making accounts on next door. They're trying to kick the farmers out. People supporting for us that we didn't even have to outreach to do. So this is one way to be able to connect the community and a way to do that and how it grows naturally. This is just the process of farming, what happens in a natural community. Yes?
Are you still farming this site, or has it been?
We're not farming that site, unfortunately. They plowed it all over. So they said that we couldn't farm there because we get into landscape plannings, and it was zoned commercial. So everything that is zoned commercial, if you want to plant a tree outside of a commercial zoning or cut a hedge a certain way, or change a sprinkler line, you need to submit an entire sheet of the whole community or zoning plan of your entire
to the city.
Yeah, like a thick super packet to do anything like that. And it doesn't allow any type of farming vegetable or anything that you're gonna sell for profit, even if you're not selling it. Yes?
I'm really interested in how you got from here to there.
Yes.
Like, it says you left like leaf litter on the ground. I mean, was there any other amendments, like you bringing in the leftovers from your parents or anything, or, you know?
So
like,
yeah, that's a good question. So we only do water and compost tea. So we are a big fan of compost tea, and we teach different recipes that make compost tea. That's the only way that we encourage micropopulation. So we'll teach people how to do that. But otherwise, we do early stage leaf drop. So early stage plants have some of the highest nitrogen compounds. So we'll take a lot of the early plants and just lay them in the lines on where we're at the base of all the plants. So we have more pictures of that on our Instagram of our current, we have a high tunnel that we're doing melons and squashes and all that, and we have very clear pictures on some stuff like that. Yes?
For zoning regulations, would you be able to do something like this in a
So residential gets iffy. So because technically the farm is in residential, but it's on the commercial plot. So it would be based off of what is the actual plot zoned in. So let's say it's in front of your house. Then your house gets out of zoning with commercial, but now you're in HOA. If that makes sense. But if you go, let's say your area of your house has a park next to it, you have to figure out what the zoning area of that is. And we're talking about all these random island spots. Each one can be zoned something differently. There's agricultural zoning, which is extremely rare to find, and there's also transferring zoning, but you have to go through literally the court system and get required and appease to them why they should even change the zoning and what it's gonna do. And if you wanna go through zoning changes, you have to also let them know how it's gonna affect 2030 plan. A lot of BS. But if you wanna do it, you can do it. So it's not impossible, but that if that answers your question a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Should we just kind of go into questions? I guess that could kind of do too, and then we can kind of just touch from there. Anybody? If not, yeah.
Do you have a seed archive?
You have a seed archive. We do not currently have a seed archive. We had one a few years ago. Right now, we pull from a few different trusted companies. So of some of the stuff that we brought, like strictly medicinal, that's going to be them. One of our favorites, so we teach classes on plant magic and plant workshops. So if you want to know how to extract plants, if you want to know how to turn plants to dye, how to turn plants to clothes, fibers, textiles, anything in that aspect. If you want to know extractions for oils, distillations, anything in that world of plants, that's from your plant magic class, and we touch on that, all the herbalisms and stuff like that. We have a large plant library, so there's books from anything and everything. Don't have a seed archive yet, but we plan on doing that a little bit, hopefully more in like the 2030 area if we can get like a solid farm, but we are still working with HOA, and HOA could be a pain in the butt. So we can't do anything for sure right now. That answers that. Any other questions? Okay, well I will just kind of touch base on some of the other things. So we brought a few other books. Our permaculture is one of the books that we love to teach out of. If you want to know a little bit more, especially when you had asked on how to kind of change and how we turn the nutrients and stuff like that, this was a book that I've studied really, really hard to do that. And this is going to teach you how to turn your entire land into thinking of it as pretty much a baby, and how you feed your baby and how you feed the land. So these are ones that we highly recommend. Maria Thun is going to be the one that we teach out of for dates and times. If you want to know when to plant, if you want to understand the moon cycles on the cards and the constellations, this is going to be those. So if you are an Aries, raise your hand. Okay, if you're a Leo, raise your hand. Or keep your hand up, Aries, Leos, and then we need Sagittarius. Any Sagittarius in here? Okay, what's the common between all of you? Fire signs. Fire signs are connected to what? Does anybody know? These are going to be the fruits of plants. So fire signs are going to be connected to all of the fruits of plants. So when the moon is in the constellation of an Aries, a Sagittarius, or a Leo, this is when we're going to plant tomatoes, watermelons, squashes, any fruit of a plant, any fruit tree. If you're a Cancer, raise your hand. You Cancers, Scorpios, keep your hands up. Pisces. Okay, perfect. So these are going to be connections between what? Water signs. These are connected to the leaves of the plants. So if you're going to be planting anything to do with mullein, we're looking at lettuce, we're looking at collards, anything to do that you're harvesting the leaves of the plants, that's going to be that. So if we have Aquarius, raise your hand. Libra. And what's our last one? Gemini. Raise your hand. What are these? Air signs. Air signs are connected to our flowers. These are going to be any flowering plant. So plumeria, hibiscus, any plant that you're trying to get for that reason that you're harvesting for the flowers. That's the last one. What's our last three signs? Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. What are those? Earth signs. And these are going to be, this is an easy one. Roots, sorry, yep, someone said it. So root crops, ginger, garlic, galangal, any of those kind of things, turmeric, taro. These we plant when the moon is in a constellation of an earth sign. So if you want to understand more about that and how we teach that and why we do this, this is a great book to start on that. All of our plants are based on that. We don't grow a single plant that's not in the constellation or the cusp of that time and energy. That's how we run our entire cycle. We do about 20,000 plants every month, and we grow those in our indoor micro farm, and as well as our spot, and then we move everything and acclimate them outside. Yes.
Could you say that again? How many plants? You say 20 plants?
20,000. So yeah, we roughly grow about 20,000 plants a month, and that's on average. It can go up or down, but typically it's about there. Our plant buffet that we have is from on October 4th. We do stuff like kind of like different events. The one that we have is you buy a ticket and you have 5 minutes to grab as many plants as you want. There will be fruit trees, there will be vines, there will be 20,000 plus plants all over. It's gonna be at the Uptown Farmers Market. But that's not like stuff that we like to do. So it's different ways too. Is like you can.
And it's 5 minutes, then you can get back in line, do another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Get back in line.
Yes.
When was that?
This is October 4th. Yeah. So it hasn't happened yet, but yeah, that's October 4th. It's coming up. But yeah. So any other questions? Yes.
How long have you guys been like into plants for? Like in the business of growing them and stuff like that?
Yes. I personally have been in agriculture for my entire life, but professionally it's been about 15 years. 10 years teaching, 15 years getting into the professional field.
Since starting this business and meeting Yoseph, less than 2 years for me.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he's like excelled from like so many people I know that will be talking
Apparently,
about
yeah.
stuff, and I'm like, dude, you know this?
Just picked
It's
up
crazy.
stuff.
So that's always really cool. I love when you like work with someone that has a different trait, and then you learn stuff from them. Because I feel like every time I go around with my friends, I act like an IT guy now, and I'm like, oh yeah, I
That's
know
so
stuff.
funny.
Yeah, I'm like reality. I got a few things in my belt. That's about it. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if this is off topic, but how does permaculture work here?
Yes, I think it works extremely well. Is anyone here familiar with spaces of opportunity? Okay, spaces of opportunity. Okay, so Spaces of Opportunity is going to be a farm down in Vineyard. I want to say it's like 19th Ave and Vineyard. I could be wrong, it's like 15th or 19th Ave. They're a huge little lot in area that has a lot of little quarter plots that are going to be registered to farmers. And each farmer there grows in a different way. So you will see spots where they have like kind of more permaculture style. You'll see row farming. You'll see all kinds of different farming. It does really good. Also, if you go to a tropical concept nursery, it is my favorite nursery in Arizona. They are really two cool people, Papa Dan and Mama Kim. They own a mango tree farm nursery. You're gonna see over 40 varieties of bananas, over 30 varieties of sugarcane, all in ground, natural, thriving like crazy. You'll see mango trees, you'll see mulberries, sapodillas, all kinds of fruit trees that you probably never even thought could grow out here. All just growing in ground naturally. In really beautiful setting. They're also a rare birds rescue. So if you want to go talk to some birds and see some crazy cool birds, they will. But I have to tell you this, some of their birds are really rude. Okay, I tell people that, and some of them are kind of racist. But I don't mean that in a mean way. It's because they're rescues.
Where's the banana place?
Yes, Tropical Concept Nursery. Yeah, I gotta throw that out there because we had one friend who was like, the bird told me this, and I was like, I told you the birds are kind of. They're rescue. So some of the birds come from like drug houses or all kinds of other stuff, and they know some very interesting phrases. But yes.
Just wanted to follow up on Mindy's question because as a novice, I think it's really interesting to appreciate how school gardens often get started, which is to go to Home Depot.
Yes.
And to get the extra burpee plants that are available. And what you guys are illuminating is this hidden network outside of the big box stores, and that agriculture is thriving sometimes in the cracks, right?
Yeah.
But not necessarily. Like what you just described is this place that maybe we're not all aware of. Could you speak a little bit more to this, to what some of us might think is a hidden network, where it's like not easy, it's not visible. You guys see it. You guys are connected to it. And school gardens aren't always deeply connected. So could you just paint a picture of that landscape? Like you're doing it now, but
yes.
That's one example, right? And they're the only one in the valley, or are they?
Yeah, so they're
on
the
every block, or
they're the only one. So they're actually grandfathered in. They're one of the oldest nurseries in Phoenix. They've been around for a really long time, and like any big nursery knows who they are. Just being a very honest kind of person. A lot of people don't like them because they're very real. They're kind of like, again, they're grandfathered in, so they're two kind of just older people that are very in their niche, and they're very comfortable, and I love them as much. They've taught me so much, so I'll vouch for them. I don't care what anyone says. But they're very much in their set in their ways, but the space of what they have, and you can see for itself, and how like organic and connected it is just purely natural. And that's probably one of my favorite settings about it. Another spot to just learn some really good information on stuff like that would be the Arizona Worm Farm. I think most people are familiar with Arizona Worm Farm.
Oh, how many people know about the worm?
I don't know about it.
Okay, so Arizona Worm Farm, I would say you can write that one down. They're also really awesome. They've supported and granted a lot of our projects too. They are someone who you can get classes on worm compost and vermicompost. There's a really good book called Vermiculture Technology. Vermiculture Technology is like a $150 book if you can find it. That talks all about the science of worm castings and how to get into that and just using worm castings for farming and then that alone. So that industry is a very great industry, and they're also some of the biggest supporters to turning Arizona's waste into compost. So turning all of the dead trees that we drop, all of the plants and stuff, and using all of that, they're big supporters of doing that, and you can buy bulk soil from them, and that's probably one of the biggest things they do, their nursery is known for, is buying soil. So instead of buying a bagged soil, you can literally buy like a truckload of soil for like $50. Way better, and I also think they do bucket soils, like a full bucket for like $5. You go there and fill up your own bucket. They do amendments, they do black soldier flies. So black soldier fly larva is kind of a more of a newer thing, getting into breeding. It helps for food production, for chickens and poultry. Also does, they also are composters. So they have a lot of classes on anything like that. A really, really great place, and they sell plants as well. They do a lot more of the garden plants. They do flowers. They also do medicinals. So you can get a lot of really, really nice stuff from there. Highly support them. They're awesome. Another awesome place that we can think of that we actually just met, I would say Ken. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ken. A couple months ago, Alice's parents hit us up and they're like, "Hey, we want to take you guys to a nursery." And I was like, "Dude, I know all the nurseries. Like, what are you talking about? There's nothing to tell me." And then we go and we show up to this house. And we're like kind of lost at first, and we're like, I don't know what it is. And then they come out, and then they show us where to go, and we go inside, and it looks like the guys bought like 2 houses and just like threw the wall down and just flattened it out, and the whole thing is a nursery. We're talking like thousands of trees, shade, 2 giant greenhouses, and like you could not tell from the outside. Like I couldn't even tell how many houses the thing was. I think it's still more than 2. There's no way. Because we didn't see the other side. I'm like, I know greenhouses extend far, so the only way that would happen is like there's another like 80 feet on that side. Crazy. But really awesome. So his is, do you know his name? The name of his nursery, or is it?
I want to say it's like Jungle something.
Oh yeah, no, it's Jungle something nursery. So it might be Jungle Nursery. He has no social media platform. Okay, so this is pure by the know. He has no social media out there at all, but I think it's Jungle Nursery. But really, really awesome. And that place was like beautiful. He has stuff growing in ground, amazing plants all over.
Him and his wife.
Yeah, just him and his wife. And they work. And I mean, like, I know how much work that takes. They put in freaking work. So that's another really awesome, beautiful spot that I could say. Those are like some really good gems. Yes.
I just give you like we can shift to open Q&A in a couple more minutes.
Yes.
One of the other things I'd love for you guys to comment on. Your organization has deep knowledge, technical knowledge of agriculture, but you guys are also emphasizing locality, connection. And Harvest 365 is an interesting tool that you guys have developed that gets to that social side. Like, how do we inspire and enable others to take this journey of like deeper engagement with land, with plants? And I wonder if you could talk about some of the experiences you've had, how that has been a useful tool for NAMA.
Yeah, I mean, we're all about lowering the barrier for creativity and innovation, and these cards are just one way of doing that because it's fun, it's play, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say play is a big one that we try to see. Like we have like kind of like brainstorm moments where we'll sit down and be like, all right, bring out the whiteboard. What can we do differently this time? What are things and goals that we're working on? But also, I'm very much the one who will wake up at like 3 a.m. and be like, Alex, I got an idea. And be like, he's like, I don't know about that one. Or sometimes he's like, yeah, no, that's the one to go for. So when it comes to that, like, I have daughters, and I very much so want to be able to teach them things in different ways. And sometimes it's harder for them to learn a little bit more advanced stuff. So it's always me as well thinking, how can I take what I know and bring it into a space where they can understand it? And for any of I've been teaching children, I've been a hip hop dancer my entire life. I've been teaching children hip hop dance. I've been teaching children growing agriculture, all kinds of stuff. So working with children has always been a passion, and it makes a lot of sense when I can take knowledge from something big, give it to a child where they can understand and they can use it and they can actually materialize it. So that was something where I was sitting there trying to think like, okay, how can I explain this to my daughter? And it was more based off the color concept. So that's how we kind of did stuff based off the cards. It's the color aspect of what it means, because I can just show them the card and they can connect to it based off the color before they even have to read it. And I thought that was good enough, but Alexander broke it down where he was like, we could also go further, and all the words you can take away and replace for pictures, icons, examples, like, so using those more ways, because then it's like you take the disability to even be able to read out, and you no longer need to even be able to read to connect with something. So almost one way on how to connect with people or use a tool is like, what are all the disabilities that people have? And how can you use your project to combat all of those? Like, even if we were to take this card and it had something where you can scan and it would read it out. So therefore, if it was somebody who couldn't see, they would be able to hear the card. So it's based off of different things that we're just trying to do on simple systems and projects. Even in like farming and gardening, does my garden allow wheelchair access? Does my garden allow, because if it doesn't, the person with a wheelchair would never ever be in my garden. And that loses a lot of different kind of people that we're messing with. So we want to be able to like, how can I incorporate each one of these and use that? And that typically allows us to shape ideas around different projects we have and how to bring them to the people and how to get creative, whether that's social media, whether that's mail, whether that's going door to door, whatever your thing is. If you don't have solutions to things, it becomes harder to be able to teach what you're teaching. So we try to find questions about things that would work. So I would say the youth one is probably one of our biggest ones, because if you can explain it to a child and if they can get it, then typically you can take this anywhere. If that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, we try to prioritize accessibility, and we use design principles in our cards. I'm a business intelligence analyst by trade. Like, this isn't my only job. So we'll use visual hierarchies, different color combinations, just to get you the most information at a glance.
Like, he made, like, if you guys saw my version of this, it's trash, okay? It was like, I thought that it would work, but then it's like, you see the difference between how someone who knows how to get something across can make it look, how they have the pictures. Like, I wish I could show you guys. So I was like, nah, people love this, it'll make sense. And it was like, when I see what he did, it's like, it would have been everywhere, and it would have been really hard to get you guys to understand it. And so like, also like seeking people who kind of know those things too, because sometimes you can have all of what you need and you can make a post in it, you can think it's right, but if it's not in a format and it's not communicated to a way where people can receive it, it's literally a waste of time. And we've seen that, I don't say a waste of time, but we've seen it and how much it changes when we do kind of take that a little bit extra step. Any questions? Yes.
It's like so weird. You're talking about all this stuff, and I know so much about it. I've tried so much of it and failed it all. You know, how do you have a way of growing, like, or like teaching or showing or have a book that says like the most what's the word I want, like low effort or mistake free or idiot proofing of how to grow something and have it. I'm just thinking about this, especially with schools. I was like, who's gonna worry about it in the summer?
Yeah. Yeah, we've dealt with that. We've had schools lose plants in the summer. The school garden system is a little different. We don't have a book. I do consultations where we kind of come out and give that to people and tell them like this would be the easiest bare minimum that you could do. But I will say that it typically does get into, if you can afford an automatic watering system, that'll be the number one thing we'll tell anyone in a farm in Arizona is that if anything, if you can do an automatic watering system, you're gonna have plants. That's a bare minimum. If you should just do that. Everything else I tell people, humans are not necessarily pots of nature. We move a little bit differently. Plants need a system and something to just be consistent. We suck at doing that. I leave the water hose on and it's on for 3 hours and I'm screwed. Water bill's crazy. So you can't do that, we've all been there. So what we do now is we just tell people, if you want to incorporate this, if you can do an automatic watering system, and the cheapest we can kind of bring it to is $50 to $100, then you can farm your own way, however you want to, and it typically will thrive. And so most schools that we notice when they fail, it's because they didn't have a watering system. So if they had that, then like you said, once it's summertime or once it's even spring break, we come back, the plants are dead. Fall break, we come back, plants are dead. So they're calling us back like, hey, all of our plants are dead. And we're like, well, you guys are gonna have to invest in a watering system, otherwise we're gonna be coming back every quarter. And that's for any, whether it's a school garden, whether it's someone, anything. The indigenous style for doing that is going to be waffle gardening. And these are waffle beds. We don't have too many different pictures of it on here, but we just get the strips. But if you literally think of a waffle, a bunch of waffles, they do that, and then they just flood it, and you flood the entire thing. Rice paddy fields are very similar. Theirs were just degraded. So those were just fields in the same systems of pools down mountains. But waffle beds out here, we would do them in long plains, and the water would float over the entire thing, filling the bowls or basins up. So that's how we grow out here. Our rows are the same thing. They're just stretched waffle beds. So we just grow in rows and bowls. And that's kind of how we tell people really how to do it.
Andrew, one second before you ask your question. I just wanted to first thank Alex and Yoseph for sharing their work. So we'll just give them a quick round of applause. Thank you both for coming in today. And I want to make sure that we have an opportunity for you to raise any questions that have come to mind for you or that you're thinking about in relation to School Gardens or your particular design prototype that we're going to work on soon. So we have a few minutes where you can ask any questions that you want to ask of Yoseph and Alex while we still have time. And so Andrea, if you don't mind, you can get us started.
Thank you. So when you're talking about like the tropical nursery and this nursery that is maybe in a backyard and extends house, I guess my question is, why is that not talked about more? Are there reasons as far as they're trying to keep it a little more undercover because of zoning rights and because of all of, more probably political things of trying to shut down stuff like that? Do they want it to be more in secrecy for those reasons, or is it just not as commonly marketed?
Yeah.
That's hard for me to say because I haven't been in the industry that long, but I feel like the big ones that are out there now, those are the ones that have survived. Like all the other ones have been shut down for one reason or another, code compliance, HOAs, whatever zoning.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much close to what it is. At first, I used to think, before COVID, there really wasn't a lot of micro farms. Let's be real, you really didn't see as much community gardens starting up. The COVID really kind of pushed that. Whereas a lot of them grew, we were really just kind of in the know. You either know a nursery person, you don't. OfferUp was kind of the connectivity that started connecting a lot of modern growers. But I think when I would see nurseries start to come up, I think it was probably zoning and rights and ownership that we get into the most. If you don't have ownership of something, it's almost impossible to have a successful farm where you can make a living off of it. Not saying that you can't start gardens and maybe just do it where there's no profit. Sometimes those are the more successful ones. Not consistent, but more successful. But when it moves to profit, the city wants their cut. And there's going to be some type of system where they're going to play that you're either going to have to lock in your very much so private situation, or you're going to have to deal with whatever the city is going to make you do. So with them, with the tropical concept, they were grandfathered in, so they had it so long that the city kind of can't do certain things that they could with other people. And they've dealt with a lot of problems over the time, and I honestly only think they're really making it because as much as I love them, they're a little older, and I think that a lot of the funds they get kind of help. But otherwise, I don't see a lot of that. You just don't see it. So it makes me think that that is a big reason that has made it to where they can. Otherwise, I don't think they would have been able to do it because even when the light rail came, the light rail ended up going right through them. They lost all their business for half a year, maybe. There was literally dead. Going from a nursery that sells $5,000 a day to making $30 a week, it's crazy. So, and a lot of the businesses on Central shut down, but because they were grandfathered in, they had a lot of backing from that, whereas all the other businesses got shut down. So, I do think that sometimes does play. Yes.
Okay, thinking about the waffle bed.
Yes.
How much kids would love.
Yeah, they do.
A waffle, but okay, so if you're out of school, let's say you've got a semester, is it possible that maybe you have a small aspect where you have the waffle garden, maybe you're filling it with water, really fast growing plants? So the
Yes.
kids can totally see, so then when they, then it's gonna all die, your biggest home, and it all dies, and then they come back and you can plant seeds, or else
It can be done. Do I know of a place that has it? Not currently. The only garden I know of, there are other school gardens. The number one garden that I know of is going to be Rover School Garden. Highly big fan. They are in Tempe, right? Is it?
Tempe.
Yeah, they're in Tempe. I highly recommend anyone to, if you can, check them out. And I believe they do tours. They would allow you to tour their garden. They also were at the Sprouts Foundation, so they're connected to the whole thing, and they work directly with Sprouts. So they actually got a grant from Sprouts to supply, I think it was like funding, as well as they do like hydroponics, little tower things in their room. So I know there's a lot of funding from Sprouts. So if you guys hit up Sprouts, there's a lot of things you guys can do personally with them. Sprouts Foundation specifically, it's different than Sprouts. So most places in thriving school gardens that we do see are all raised beds. I personally am against it, but that's what we see. That is the most thriving. So I would say that it can be done. We haven't seen it yet, but majority of school gardens that are thriving are all raised beds.
I'm just thinking in terms of like, from a practical thing, and putting, I'm from the West Beach, and you put the garden to bed, and the season, is there a possibility of doing that, but the dead part is at the end of the school year, and then you come back? Because you don't do anything.
Yeah, so you can let it.
It's like goodbye, and I'll come back later.
Yeah, so as long as things were, so this goes into, should every person be allowed to have a farm in their backyard? This goes into that a little bit, and the reason I say that is because it goes into like, would they take all the plants out and leave it barren for the winter time? Is there someone to maintain the farm? And that's what most of the school parks run.
Cover it over with things, and then you go away, and then you come back, and you have the season. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So it was an
Is that,
automatic timer.
I don't mean take the plants out, I mean
Yeah.
just.
The reason I
Put
say,
it to bed.
yeah, the reason I say that is that there's no one maintaining it. What happens is you get ecological problems of dispersive things. So you get like wind-pollinated plants and seeds. So that's the only reason I don't recommend people doing farms and gardens at schools over break, because someone's not there to maintain it. And the reason I say it goes into like, should everyone have a farm and garden in the backyard? There's people who are pro for this, and people who aren't or who aren't for it, because of the deals of knowing the people. Like, are you going to maintain your garden at all times? Because one plant, if it's let loose really easily, can instantly turn into something very dangerous in the neighborhood. And I've seen it in certain areas where someone does something and it sprouts, and now I go to a certain neighborhood, I'm like, this is clearly a broccoli lettuce plant here. It shouldn't be here, but then I look around, I'm like, oh, your guys' weeds are broccoli. Someone here has a backyard farm that they're not paying attention to, because this entire neighborhood has broccoli weeds, and broccoli is not a weed. So because of that, it can get kind of dangerous, and I honestly think that's a lot of reasons why certain schools don't go into farming and production, because they don't have people to maintain it. And they call it there's a champion. I think it's a champion is what they call it. If a school has a farmer, they have a champion for that school. But if they don't, then typically they won't even touch farming. So there needs to be someone there at all times. That's what most schools have. Yes.
It's hard for me to fathom broccoli being dangerous
Yeah.
as a weed. I would love for you just to elaborate a little bit more.
Yes, so I would say any plant as a wild broadcasted is going to have problematics if it's not native. So if it's not native, it brings in different pollinators, and it's going to bring in also different soil problems when it's expanded on a high scale. So if we're doing broccoli, because broccoli is a highly nutrient-dense plant, it's going to suck out extreme amounts of nutrients, and it leaves the soil depleted. So this is why people practice being able to do that. So if you have like broccoli sprouts sprouted in random places, if that broccoli sprouts in this patch of grass, I guarantee everything around that grass, the broccoli is going to turn yellow, because it's going to absorb all the nutrients. This is going to happen in a high dense area. So if you just threw broccoli seeds everywhere when broccoli is supposed to be a singular planted plant kind of, then that entire area is going to have nitrogen problems, and we're going to start to create these different things. And that's so different plants are going to have different effects. So when we broadcast random plants, we have to think about that plant specifically and what it does in an environment and how it reacts. If I know broccoli is a heavy feeder, it pulls all the nutrients out of the soil. You also then have the end of broccoli, it is a huge mass. It creates a lot of biomass. So if you're just letting random broccoli plants go to waste, it's fine, you can harvest it, but then what's going to happen to that giant mass afterwards? It's a lot of wet, broccoli molds. So now you have this giant piece of moldy broccoli everywhere in your neighborhood if people aren't pulling them up. So it's like maintenance per plant. One actual thing that is smart is most plants and landscapes and areas have been kind of thought out for the most part of that plant, not all of them. but to how many different aspects in that plant cause a problem in an area. So I would think of something like that. I would love broccoli everywhere, but I don't want to clean up broccoli everywhere. That's a pain in the butt. Like, I wouldn't want to do that. So yeah, you want any other questions? Yes.
Just given the storms that I've and I'm not native to Arizona, so seeing like monsoon and stuff like that, I think is super interesting. I'm curious to learn how that affects farms or the nurseries, I guess, or solutions they have found to protect the gardening when storms like that happen.
Yes, monsoon season can get pretty wild. Majority of the times, actually, monsoon season is the start of the growing season. In a lot of places, you kind of wait to put your seeds out like the day before, if you know it's in a monsoon, like the day of, and you plant your seeds like right then. But typically, we just deal with a lot of like wind and barriers. So it's a lot of structures more than anything. And that's if you have your shaded structures, they need to be tag locked down. That's more of the only really bad problem we have with monsoon. Other than that, we love it. We try to save it as much as we can. The reason we do waffle beds or the native style of growing is because it creates a bed where the water can sink in. Another cool company is called Watershed Management Group. They actually moved to Tucson. They're one of the biggest restoring and also like working with water. What is it? They do like the washways restoration, so they'll go into like different washes throughout the valley and restore them and clean them out. They do rainwater harvesting on houses, so if you need like a giant 800-gallon tank in your backyard and you want to gutter up your whole thing and practice that, they break into all of that. So for that, I think that's more the modern way to deal with monsoons. Like if you want to like incorporate monsoons and you're able to benefit from them, then creating water saving systems is that. They also do a thing called slow spread and sink. So slow spread and sink is what we take the idea of is if our land is alive, we want to slow the water down, spread it out, and sink it on our land. We don't want no water off. So we want to capture as much as we can. So this gets into terraforming, it gets into the swells, it gets into the basins, doing all these different native processes that the water naturally does and washes to be able to do that on our land to save water. So we practice those like before monsoon seasons where we kind of scan them. One thing I tell people is if you're doing a consultation for a farm or garden, the best time to do it is during monsoon season. So some people will literally wait and then pay for their consultations in that time of the year because everything's flooded. So you can see what's the lowest part of your land and what's the highest. And you can also see what would happen if it was really bad. So then you can kind of map around that. So I tell people to take pictures and videos during crazy storms and you can know like all the water will run that part off my property. So that needs to be the highest, the lowest. I can slope it, I can channel it, I can do something else with it.
Thank you.
Alex, Yoseph, thank you so much for joining us today. One more round of applause. And thank you for the plants too.
Yes, these.
That's awesome. And
Oh,
so they're all
nice.
like individual. So
Yeah, we didn't label them.
So
Yeah.
there's amazing leaf snap apps. You can take a picture of a leaf and it'll tell you what it is. We're gonna dive into our design work. I wonder if, as a final word, you mentioned design thinking. So they're using design thinking to start their process of envisioning solutions, innovations, support for school gardens. Any final words of wisdom in terms of how you guys have used design thinking in your agendas? That's a tough one. So.
Yeah, that's I gave them all my edits, corrects, programming.
Words of wisdom. Fail fast, fail often. In terms of design.
No, that's perfect. I'm glad you said that.
What did you say?
We fail fast, fail often.
Oh,
And that idea of prototyping and iterating, I think, enables you to fail fast and fail often. And why is that so important, Alex? Why is failing fast and often useful?
Because every time you fail is a learning experience. And you just kind of keep going. Like I really resonate with that because I like to think that I chase after things that are impossible. Because the idea is that it's already impossible, right? You're destined to fail. So anything beyond that is just like, oh shit, this is amazing. Most of the time it works out when you chase after impossible things because no one else is really good.
Awesome.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to invite each of you to spend the next 10 minutes sketching out a possible design innovation using the worksheets you have in front of you. We're only going to go through one cycle today, but if you could sketch out an idea that you're thinking with, we're then going to have an opportunity to share it with a neighbor before you set sail on your draft, which is due next week. Thank you again, guys.
Okay.